Our second lesson today is about perimeter and area of composite shapes. So first of all, we have to figure out what a couple of these words are. Perimeter is the distance around an object. Oh, that's not going to let me right there. I can even add in, look at this, I'm making a new one. Perimeter, distance around an object. What is area? Area is the amount of space an object or a shape takes up. So when we're talking about this in math, we're usually thinking about it as like, oh, I want to paint a wall. How much paint do I need? So how much space do I have to fill up with the paint? If we're talking about a room, oh, I want to put down a new carpet. So I need to know the dimensions of my room to find out how much carpet I have to put down on the floor. So this is the space that an object shape takes up. And then the last word we have to learn about today is this idea of composite. Now, composite means it's made up of different pieces. And for the work that we're doing, we're going to be working with composite shapes. So composite shapes are going to be shapes that are made up of smaller shapes. Break them down. That's our big idea. We need to be able to break things down. So we have to, A, look at a shape and be able to break it down into smaller shapes, and B, apply the proper formulas to each of those shapes to figure out what we're working with, whether it's perimeter or area. So at the back of the classroom and attached to the Google Classroom in today's lesson is a formula sheet. And I will have these for you in class, except today I'm sick and I didn't get them printed out. Here are all our different formulas that we need to know about. So the geometric shape, how do we use this? Well, the rectangle is shown here, and it gives you two options for the way to find the perimeter. You could either just add up all the outside distances around the rectangle, or you could use 2 multiplied by the length plus width. If you use the second formula, you have to remember that bed mass means that you'd have to do this addition first before you multiply by 2. And then over in this column, we see that the area of a rectangle is length times width. So if we have something that looks like a parallelogram, again, we just add up all the side lengths, and this is how you would find the perimeter. But then when we're doing the area of a parallelogram, instead of using the length and width like we would with a rectangle, we actually have to use the height multiplied by the base. So we have to be able to find out what the height is. Triangles, add up all the 3 sides around to get the distance around a triangle, which is the perimeter. And then for area, we've got, it shows you 2 different equations. I always just use the first one. Length times width, or base times height, divided by 2. So again, like the parallelogram, we need to know what the height is. Okay, and then a trapezoid. Trapezoids are still quadrilaterals. They have 4 sides, but they don't have those nice 90-degree angles or these same angles like you'd see in a parallelogram. They do have 2 sides that are parallel to each other. So again, if we're adding up all the sides around the outside to get the perimeter, easy peasy. But then we look over here at area, and there's 2 ways that you could write this equation. You could either go the top line plus the bottom line, then multiply it by the height and divide that answer by 2, which is the first equation, or you could go 1/2 multiplied by top plus the bottom multiplied by the height. I like, again, the first equation. I would have used the first one if I was solving this. And then for a circle, perimeter is known as the circumference for a circle instead of calling it the perimeter. Why did they have to come up with different names for the same thing? I don't know, just to confuse you, probably. And there's two ways that you can find it. You can either use the diameter, which is all the way across through the center of a circle, and that equation is shown up here. And you have to use the pi button, not 3.14. You have to use the pi button on your calculator. So you need to figure out where that pi button is. It's on there. You're probably going to have to use, well, no. On mine, I have to use the shift or the second button, but I think on most calculators, the pi button is just as is. So have a look. Got to find it. And then you could also find the circumference by doing 2 multiplied by pi multiplied by the radius. The only difference between these two equations is one of them has the diameter and one of them has the radius. What do I use most often? The radius equation. It's just where most of the time you're given a radius or enough information to find a radius. We don't really work with diameter anymore in higher level math. And then for circle, and that's the other reason I like using this equation, is because if I know what the radius is, I can easily apply it to my area equation, because the area equation for a circle is pi r squared. So it's always important to know what the radius is. That's why I use that one.